Hi, everybody. It's Janet Eichhorst here with Jill Renee Feeler. Hi, Jill. How are you?
I'm good, Janet. How are you?
I'm really good. Very happy to be here. So, we do have a topic today. And right when we got on and Jill and I were taking a mini moment, I had put out the intention that I was feeling that we could go in a new direction here versus staying in the old. So, the topic today is about information. Now, that's a very broad topic, and I'm sure that everybody that's listening to this spends time on their focus and making choices about what they do and what they don't do, including what they watch, who they talk to, how they talk about things. And this topic, it was cool because it visited me one morning, and I love it when topics visit me because it feels like it comes from within, so there's a greater opportunity here. And from my logical perspective, I can see why this, particularly now with the rise of AI and what AI can do in our lives, I think that there's a really, how do I want to say it, sound opportunity, good idea to spend some time considering the information we take in terms of not affecting the source God that I am and maintaining all my choice points and how I want to create and how I want to live. So, this very much goes along our theme of empowerment because let's face it, we could all be in sensory overload if we weren't paying attention to how we are in the world. I mean, I don't clean up my emails very well, and I have a lot of them in there. And it's because there's a discernment mechanism about what I want to come in there and what I don't. And sometimes I just feel too busy to clean them out, right? And that's just one small example. So, information processing, how you maintain your own sovereignty, how you as a soul, as a being, as a source God, as a divine one, are not unconsciously programmed by outward stuff. So, I'm super excited about this. What do you think, Jill?
I love it. I think it's good. And it's fun for me because I actually don't know like where you want to go with it. So I'm just like along for the ride in the passenger seat, ready to contribute where I can and where I am led. It's a broad topic, but I know I sense and I know that you have a very I don't want to say specific intention, but you have some ideas that you want to help us consider. And I'm excited about that.
Yeah. The first one I think I just want to keep tee up here is I don't want to be unconsciously influenced.
Mm,
And the way our bodies and our systems are, we take information in and it comes in, if we see it visually, it comes in through our optic nerves, right? And that has a certain, I don't know, imprinting potential. It's sort of like if you
mhm,
look at something and close your eyes and you can still see that imprint in there,
mhm.
right? Because it's been taken in to a certain degree. Same
Right.
thing with our ears. It just kind of it goes into our brain and kind of penetrates our consciousness.
Mhm,
So I don't want to, and I don't want you to, and I don't want anybody to be unconsciously influenced in a way that's
mhm,
contrary
mhm.
to who you are and how you want to live. So what do you think about that, Jill? What do you have to oh wow.
It brings up a lot of different um inclinations for me in terms of how challenging it is these days to recognize the source of information that we take in and whether it has an agenda or not, whether it's coming from integrity or not. There's a fine line between information and propaganda, and that makes it very challenging for a lot of us. And I feel like sometimes we can put a lot of faith and trust in a certain source, thinking that we can take off our filters with those sources. And sources change. Even if it's one individual or an organization, there can be subtle or obvious changes in an agenda, in a motivation. So it can be exhausting, I think, as a consumer of information and even as a creator of information to stay in integrity, right? What is, anyway, there's just is it empowering or is it disempowering? That's something that I tend to be really good at recognizing if something feels to me that it is taking away my sovereignty or guiding me away from my sovereignty versus pointing me back to my sovereignty. And I know with my work and with our work in this podcast, there is a constant theme of wanting to empower and wanting to offer, not at the expense of their sovereignty, but in support of their sovereignty.
Yeah, I there are so many propaganda machines, and I think that and mechanisms, and I think that that has increased exponentially with the rise of AI. And so I think that's a really great thing to address, like straight up, like how do you maintain your own discernment and your own self in the midst of all that? Like what's the best way? And the first thing we talk about often, often, often here is there's presence, there's awareness, and just being honest that that's actually happening, and
Mm-hmm.
that we've talked about this in the spiritual community. There's people that pop up and people that have been around a long time too that get caught up in the money machine, and sometimes they don't even mean to. Sometimes it's just they kinda cross that line and they didn't know that they did. And then there's a lot of people that that's their pure intention, is to not deliver value, not to assist people in that empowerment, but to just make some moolah, right? And that's just
Mm-hmm.
one small example. And then when you get into all the different layers of society, the news has agendas. And I know this could be very controversial, and my intention in even mentioning news sources is to help people navigate their world better, because I'm not calling anybody right and I'm not calling anybody wrong. I'm just saying, if you sit down and listen to the news, try an experiment here. You know, take a breath beforehand and center yourself. Do whatever you want to do, and then afterwards, see how you feel. And this goes around anything, quite frankly. Anybody that you listen to, anything that you read, and see if you haven't really lost yourself, but it feels like you're not as here, right? It feels like you're off your center. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like your head might start going off down a rabbit hole. There might be a fear-based, I mean, this is a key thing. A lot of the information out there will kind of stimulate a fear response, and then you're manipulated by it.
Right.
So pay attention to that and experiment with it.
Mm-hmm. I know I've run into this a lot, even with my community, which is, the individuals that I've been interacting with and sharing with and engaging with and traveling with on trips and things like that, and membership, for so many years now, since 2010, 2011. There are some instances where somebody is very convinced that they have a perspective that is fully informed and they're not missing anything. And when it tends to be very, I'm going to use the word apocalyptic, very doomsday, no, Joe, we're on the brink of like a full on disaster. All of the systems are being dismantled. It's all happening like on plan. Like this is great because then something better can be created. They feel very convinced, and in some instances, they can be very convincing. And yet, I I consistently have a different perspective than that. That we're not on the way to death and destruction. And we're also not on the way to a bottom so that we can rebuild again. And I know for some individuals that can sound disappointing. So recognize that they don't want to hear
Mm.
anything different. So when I am led to offer that
Mm.
that might not be true, there's a there's a resistance sometimes, or there's a, well, I don't want to hear that right now, right? And I just feel like it's really helpful for all of us to recognize when we are being offered a perspective that's different than our own. We have choices. We can put our fingers in our ears and go, la, 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 la. I'm my best me when I'm acting as if my truth is the only truth and it is an objective truth and it's true even if you don't believe it's true, right? So, an objective truth is something that is true, whether you believe it or not. A subjective truth is something you make true by believing it. But that doesn't mean it's true for everyone. And it doesn't even mean it's true at all. Right? So there's a lot of energy that we can put into acting as if a subjective truth is an objective truth.
Mhm.
There's a lot of energy that can go into acting as if the world is on its way to the bottom so that it can rise again like an airplane and lift off. If that is not the reality of if that is not the reality of this reality, then it takes energy to pretend it is the reality of this reality. So it requires a lot of filters and, okay, I can't listen to what Jill says because she'll poo-poo this, or she'll say that, well, that may not happen that way. And a lot of people have felt that way for a really long time and it still hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's not going to happen. And let's make sure you're okay even if it doesn't happen. Um, it's been a fascinating journey doing this as long as you and I have, Janet, because we've seen those predictions. We've seen ones that have not turned out to be true. And we keep seeing this timeline of what's going to happen be pushed out and out and out. So I know for me, that theme in particular related to information is a concern for me, because there's a lot of individuals that are consuming a lot of energy pretending as something true that hasn't been true and may never be true. Hi, Dakota.
Mm. This is good. So one of the major payoffs that Jill just mentioned, which I love this, is how much more energy I can have available depending on how I navigate these situations.
Mhm.
And am I using my energy wisely in that way? And hmm, I see so many cycles, many cycles of the very thing that is talking about things getting to a place where they don't work anymore and then shifting. And I see that every day. And so I could be one that could be threatened by the very things that Jill just said. And I'm not, right? What it invites me to do is to look at, am I overly invested in a certain
Mhm.
belief system? And am I married to it because for some reason I have found a level of most likely safety and security in it? Maybe it's given me purpose for living. Maybe it helps me
Mm.
stay optimistic enough because I'm effing depressed. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of reasons why I'm overly invested. Maybe I don't wanna look at that little pocket of something that's inside of me because I'm freaked out, right? There's a lot of different reasons. So, I love this with Jill because we can have these really, um, important, I'll say, conversations where my experience might match what she's concerned about. And, uh, and I'm open enough to continually consider what my belief systems are. And this goes back to, are we in evolving or are we devolving as a society? And I don't know what I was listening to or what, but I I very well saw in myself or from my lens the devolution of our society, of humanity. And it's interesting because I hadn't considered it like that before. So, I mean, Jill had mentioned it, and so that's why I brought this one in particular up, and we're talking about this because it's a really good example of we can change our minds.
Mhm.
Overinvestment in my lens is not recommended because then I can't see what's happening. So, how do I stay in my center enough that I don't miss some really cool stuff happening on our planet, right? Because what comes through all of us, what I'm designed to do, I mean, nobody does it like me. Nobody does it like you. Nobody does it like
Mhm.
people listening. And that's the thing that we really want to encourage people. So yeah, you brought up some really good, like pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. If you're overly invested, look at your energy management. Where are you drained? Where are you drained? And are you making other people wrong?
Hmm. Where
That's
they might be
another.
right, right?
Yes.
It's kind of okay to make other people wrong if they actually are wrong, and you're right. That could actually be useful because 'cause you're kind of revalidating some good facts that you're operating from. I was having a conversation yesterday with a friend that we both know, another content creator and, connector kind of as source energy, and she shares from that. And she's become very doomsday, very apocalyptic. And one thing that we were talking about related to her is that she's having a really hard time in her life. So that's another element to this that I think is really useful. When we are in a personal state of I don't like my life, or I'm really unhappy with how things are going with the people around me, and I'm concerned, we might be more susceptible to world views,
Mm,
beliefs, expectations, and therefore information that validate that tone. And that can be very self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And it really creates a bubble. Again, if that bubble is based on misinformation and a misrepresentation
mm,
of facts, right? Meaning something they don't mean, and that again is going to be very draining because you're making a false reality for yourself to match what you're personally currently going through or seeing in the world or in yourself. So that's something that's really important too. And it probably takes a new skill set if somebody is identifying with that to intentionally look for information, perspectives that are contrary to what you are feeling. It's going to be
and
jarring. It's going to feel really strange. It's going to feel like driving the wrong way in a one way street for a minute. But you may actually start to loosen up your grip on a set of patterns that are ripe for repatterning and rethinking.
mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. And that can happen the other way, is that if I
Mm.
listen to a lot of doomsday stuff, I become doomsday in my own life, which
Mm.
is one reason to be
Mm.
protective of what I
Totally.
watch and what I
Yeah.
listen to because, and we've talked about susceptibility quite a bit, and we did a whole podcast on it a while back, but it's applicable here. And yeah, this is really good information for people to consider. And it makes the point that do I need to listen to or watch anything? Like maybe you go on a vacation, and I know lots of
Mm.
people that have done this where
Mhm.
what is the belief system
Mhm.
that I have to know what's going on in my world? And that's a really wow, there's a lot of different layers of this. Of course, I wanna know what's happening in my home. I wanna know how my dog is. I wanna know what's going on in my neighborhood because that
Mhm.
directly affects me. And the sources that people use to determine what is happening in the world may not be accurate. And I don't see a lot of the news sources as being accurate in terms of I can't tell you the number of times when I know people are in certain locations and then the general news media, I'm talking about the major, networks. Wow, these words don't even seem to apply anymore.
I
But they
know.
will
Yeah.
I was like, "What do you
Maybe
mean by
traditional. Maybe traditional news sources, conventional news sources. That might be helpful.
that?" Maybe. But they will report something, and then I know somebody that's there, and they're saying, "That's not happening." You know, that's that I am here, right here, boots on the ground, and that's not happening. And it's not
Mhm.
something that's subjective. It's a objective kind of observational experience that the person's having. So,
Mhm.
and again, I'm not having judgment. I'm not telling people what to do or what not to do. But that's that thing where you just talked about, Jill. If I'm having this experience and I have this belief, I can find anything out there that will match that, and that's not, I mean, I want to have information that's compatible with me in a value sort of way. If something is fear-based and judgment-based in a very negative way, that's not how I roll, right? And I can also pick something to validate sort of a level of negativity or some vein or
Mhm.
my belief system. And do I need that? I mean, that's really what the whole reason I wanted to bring and talk about this is,
Okay.
do I really need to be validated by external sources?
Mm.
Do I? I mean, I appreciate professionals that may have information if I cut my arm, how my tendons are designed to be connected. That I appreciate, right? That's not subjective to me. But when we're talking about other things that have so much subjective information about it, like I do not want to give away my internal authority.
Mhm.
And with the level of information out there today, depending on what you interact with,
Mhm.
if I interact too much, then that's more difficult for me to hold on to my own internal knowings. And I don't want that to happen to anybody here. You got way too much stuff going on, and you're way too important in the whole. And I know
Mhm.
this. Whoever you are, I get a little passionate about that one.
I love your passion. It's a deserving passion on an important topic. I want to touch back a little bit on this idea of it. We were programmed slash offered that it was our responsibility to be well informed citizens, right? And did you read the newspaper today? And I remember probably fourth or fifth grade, like it was your like duty to like know the facts in the paper and things like that. And I don't remember when, it probably doesn't matter, but at some point I thought that is just silly to think that if I read that, I know what's going on in the world, or I know what's even going on in my town. You guys, this there are I'm gonna go. I know you didn't want to repeat, but I can't not repeat. I mean, you can have two people standing right next to each other on a street corner, witnessing the same accident, looking in the same direction, and they will have two totally different stories about what happened, what they saw, and who was at fault, and who's the innocent party or whatever. We Every person has a different experience, even with the kind of the same thing. But I love the one about a chef making a big vat of like pasta and it's put in two bowls and one person loves it and one person's like, this is disgusting. This is terrible. What were they thinking? Right. So it's complicated here and it's incredibly nuanced. And I know it may require a different set of wiring, but I highly recommend it It's very humbling to recognize there's no way we could know everything going on, even in our own house. So does that lead me to not try? No. But it makes me very humble in the fact that I think I know what's going on today. I think I know how, my daughter Georgia's day went, starting back at college as a junior. I think I have a sense of that, but there's a lot I don't know. So it doesn't mean I can't make decisions. It gives me more openness to the parts that I can't see or I don't know. So it actually makes me more aware by acknowledging there's things that are not in my awareness
Mhm.
so that I'm open to be surprised. And I think for some people, they're trying to avoid being surprised by feeling over prepared. And I don't think that's going to work well because those are going to be the individuals that were like, oh, I never thought this could happen. And then they get mad. If you know somebody or you are that type of person that when things go unexpectedly, you get mad, I recommend a huge upgrade. And that is with everything you think you know that you need to be true, there is a huge amount of unpredictability. And I'm going to use a word a lot of people that are fitting into this would really don't want me to use next. I'm going to say it anyway. Randomness. Ah, the random, right? Anybody who thrives on information probably really dislikes randomness. But there is randomness, there is unpredictability. There are things that source energy is not manipulating, controlling, or guaranteeing an outcome on. That has made me a better Jill because what I'm ready to do in that gap is compassion, grace, love, with an element of, oh, I didn't see that one coming either. Damn.
Mhm.
Okay, now what do we want to be?
And that just doesn't happen in negative ways.
It's positive.
I mean, there's incredibly cool things that have happened
Hey.
that are beyond my wildest dreams
Mm-hmm.
that have been unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've shared this before and I probably share it again. I mean, I really believe we are on a need to know basis here. I really believe that. And I want to make really good choices about what information I seek out and why. Why am I seeking that information? Like, go a little deeper. If you're an information junkie, just give yourself a moment to take a breath or 2 or 100,000 with that. Like, why is it that you're seeking that information? What does it do for you? Now, it might be pertinent to your job. It might be pertinent to what you want to create. It might be,
Mm-hmm.
and it might not be.
Mm-hmm.
That motive is so vital
Mm-hmm.
to making a great choice about what I am consuming in terms of information and what I'm not. And that goes, wow, and I really don't know what is going on with anybody else in their entirety without asking and talking directly to them. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
care how intuitive you are. I don't. And
Yeah.
being intuitive, it's the stuff I feel like I get from source, that stuff doesn't need to be shared a lot of times, you know?
Oh, your clients are not gonna like you saying that. They're like, "Wait, are you holding out on me? Are you holding
Well,
back? You think I can't
I
handle it?"
I never hold back when I'm guided, and
I'm
I
teasing
also
you.
I know you are, but I wanted to address it because I wanna say the reason why is
Mhm.
that we get to have our own moments of discovery here,
Mhm.
and those are, you know, fire up the fireworks. It's so beautiful when I get that moment where I know something that I didn't know and I learn something or I have this beautiful vision and I was like, "Oh, that's what they've been talking about for the past 10 years." And I
This is
didn't know
so
what they were
big.
talking about.
So, can I go back? Because when I was talking about the randomness and the unpredictability, I feel like what you're wanting to make sure people hear is that when I talk about unpredictability and randomness, that doesn't mean be prepared for the worst. It
Yeah.
means, I mean, that's neutral. Unpredictability and randomness can be things like, oh my gosh, I never would have dreamed this could happen. This is the best news ever. This is the best surprise ever. It can also be, I never wanted that to happen. I never would have predicted or manifested that. And yet here we are. Right. So that statement is totally neutral. And is it true that what you were wanting to make sure the audience heard is that that could be an up or a down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned the word neutrality because I want to use that word in terms of I'm passionate, like you guys hear that in me, right? Like I can go into things and I love life, right? And that comes across a lot of times. And there's also not being overly invested in this party being right, that party being right, this being wrong, whatever. There's a level of neutrality where my power is intrinsic, it's here, it's full on, where my vision is open.
Mm.
That is the level of neutrality that I love to operate from. That feels like I'm in communion with source God, whatever word you want to
Mhm.
use, universal intelligence, creatorness, whatever you want to use here. That's where I feel like the potential really lies.
Yeah.
And then the susceptibility, if you looked at, on Jill, I know she likes to do graphs and all that. If you look at the the relationship between that susceptibility when I'm in that neutrality and that communion, inner communion, susceptibility goes right because I can be shocked in those moments by information that comes and not have a meltdown. I might have an emotional response to it, right? Because I am in a human bodysuit here, right? And I may be whatever, and it may be a really positive reaction, or it may be sadness. And I don't think sadness is unpositive, right? But wow, like let's whew, be here, like really be here.
With
And if
whatever that
any,
means, with whatever emotion that includes.
yeah, I mean, if anything, the this entire topic about information and how we process it and what we do with it and what our beliefs are around all that stuff, awareness and solidness within ourselves in that unsolid sort of way.
So if you were going to try to summarize your main kind of like hope, I would say, for
Mm.
what someone would consider and receive from you in this topic of information, how would you characterize it?
I don't want anybody to sacrifice who they are or their relationship with the God that they are due to information that they consume in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
And that's been rampant.
Hmm.
It caused all kinds of suffering and all kinds of problems for people and
Mhm.
wasted a lot of resources, time, energy, currency, right? Of all sorts. What about you?
Let's see. I mean, when I think of information, I would like it to be something that's available for your consideration, but isn't given more power than it deserves.
Mm.
And also isn't given less power than it deserves. So it is very
Uh,
nuanced. I want it to be something that goes through some sort of consideration. I prefer a logical consideration, not just a, well, I don't want that to be true. So I'm not, that's not information, that's propaganda. You know what I mean? It's like, huh, That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, or I didn't know that. Or, yep, that's, too affirming of beliefs I already have that might be deserving of reconsideration. Um, I mean, I also want to touch on the topic of so-called artificial information or artificial intelligence. I know we're not talking about intelligence per se, but this, it fits with it. I would not be surprised if by January 2027, we are renaming artificial intelligence to something to the effect of simulated intelligence, because artificial, um, I don't think that word is as helpful. I think that anything that is currently called AI is a version of synthesized information that is not human generated, but it can have an agenda. It can have an underlying perspective that is either in alignment or not in alignment with something that's logical and rational and true. It can be overly optimistic, can be overly negative, and the I want to say the power, or the for me the best role for anyone is to be the considerer, not just the consumer, the considerer of information that we're taking in. And just being, it might be true or it might not be true, but I am me and you are you, no matter what turns out to be true.
Just going to breathe a little bit on that one.
And then there's another part I want to get to.
Well, phew, artificial
I know.
intelligence, it's mirroring something, and it's also a lot of it is designed to tell you what you want to hear. That's built into a lot of the systems.
And algorithms, personal algorithms on your systems.
So, I I'm not the one that wants to hear what I want to hear. I want to hear more of a reality
Objective
based.
truth. Objective truth. Things that are
That,
true, whether you believe them or not.
I mean, here, and because we're here to challenge everything that doesn't allow that level of objectivity, I'll say, which, can there be such a thing as 100% objectivity? We're humans here. So that's a little challenging. So that is one of the reasons that I did want to bring this up too, because of the rise of AI and whatever, how that affects us. Because it literally reprograms our brains. There's studies out there, and I don't want to get lazy in terms of honoring my source essence. And that has an opportunity to do that because it'll do it for me. And I don't ever want to get into that. I'm directing it. I don't want it to direct me.
Yeah. I feel like the other main point I would love to just probably validate for people, I don't think this is going to be shocking or like, oh my gosh, Jill, I never thought about that, but just really validating that there is a dumbing down that happens with information that has gatekeepers. Now, what do we mean by gatekeepers? I mean institutions and roles and humans that are feeling like the full set of information is like it would be irresponsible to give the full set of facts, to give the full um, messiness of a situation. So we need to dumb it down. We need to make it where a first grader, no offense to the first graders, could, where the simplest of humans without the frontal lobe could understand it. I feel insulted when anyone or anything has neutralized something to this really refined, easily parroted back thing that even in the moment, if I felt like, oh, that was really good, I know what's going on. And then another version, another range of me is just like, well, that can't be everything that's going on, Jill. Is like an inner voice. I'm like, oh yeah, that's funny. I fell for it. I fell for it. You know what I mean? So it's never one thing, right? And I know for some people that can be jarring, but I feel like the future of humanity would benefit and maybe resides upon our ability as humans to rise above within ourselves to a version of ourselves that does not need to be dumbed down to, doesn't want to be dumbed down to, and wants to go the extra mile for ourselves if anyone or anything is narrowing things to this overly simplistic, impossible reflection of so-called truth. That pisses me off when anyone is doing that. And it's even more kind of comical to look at the different figureheads of authority that these different traditional news agencies or even non-traditional news agencies are like, well, they'll believe him, they'll believe her. And I'm just like, who is believing everything that this person says because they said it, because it was on that network or that YouTube channel or whatever? I guess I'm maybe unusual that I actually really like a good takedown when somebody has a, look at what this asshole tried to make you believe, and how stupid is that? And I'm just like, oh, this is so satisfying to me. Not that I don't want to see anyone taken down, but if there's a dumb or limited idea that lacked the nuance it required to have a full, empowered understanding, I do like a good takedown of, come on, what are we thinking here?
I think this is the era of that because
Oh,
there's so much.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Well, oh gosh, where do I want to go with this? Let me just take a
You
breath.
just said it. I'm going to repeat what you said. I think this is the era of that, and I want to like write it down because I number one because I hope you're right. I want that to be true. That this is the era of individuals rising above being talked down to or belittled. That like in that movie, it's one of my favorite movies, A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. That's what Jack Nicholson said on the stand. It's a really good movie.
Well, and it's not only being dumbed down, it's being given misinformation.
Mm. Or
So
narrowed.
say it again.
Or narrowed. It's not that it's wrong, it's that it's so simplified that it's incorrect. So is it misinformation? Not always. It's actually accurate information, but it's been simplified and synthesized to a way that doesn't isn't empowering at all. It's disempowering.
Well, and some of it's deliberate. I mean, I was having a conversation with my neighbor this morning because he looks at me because I'm always positive, pretty much, right? And he's like, "What are you saying?" I was like, "Well, do you know that actuaries look at cost benefit analysis in terms of replacing parts, even though they know if they don't replace that part in that vehicle, people will be killed, and they make a benefit analysis about that. That's a conscious choice that people make where they know harm can be done." And that's one small example. And I don't like to think that there's nefarious people out there or nefarious institutions, but they do have agendas that are meant to stir people in a certain direction. So I think this is really, when I'm talking about the era of what's happening, there's a level of revelation, there's a level of, we can't take it anymore. That's happening in we the people. And I'm not saying that we're, in my view, this is not us against them. That's not what I'm talking about. That's about me coming into a level of what I know to be true for myself and making different choices, not to support institutions, not to act in certain ways, because I think there's also a lot of investment in people fighting with each other here, in terms of how society is influenced. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here because Jill has dropped off. Oh, she's coming right back on.
Did you break my internet, Janet?
Well, it's been a little iffy right here, and we are talking about some big things, and I am sweating in the midst of all this. Um, so I do think this is wow. I'm glad we're laughing about it because this is I love Earth. I love people, and I love what's possible here. And I don't like the things that I've seen that have happened here. So, in terms of a good takedown, in terms of a good level of awareness, in terms of people making different choices and calling bullshit, I see that happening in so many ways, which is why a lot of people have turned off the news, which is why people's behavior has already changed in a lot of degrees, which is why people are saying things that they might not have felt comfortable saying to their friends and family members. I mean, even the things that I just shared could be considered controversial and threatening to people's existence and their belief systems. And if that there's actually conscious decisions being made to harm. And I had to give that up a long time ago in my naivete because I believe in the goodness of people. So I am sweating bullets right now. There's so much energy that I'm feeling.
I wonder if there's something that you want to say that you're hesitant to say.
Oh.
'Cause I feel like our audience can handle anything and
Well,
is super savvy, so if you are holding back, then I would just invite you
well,
to say what
let's
you
both
really
take
wanna
a
say.
moment here and see if
Okay.
there's anything that wants to come out that might be a little more earth shattering, we'll say, reality shattering. Let's just see, because mm, oh gosh. Whew, so I have deep sadness as I feel this. The level of manipulation that we've been under is effing off the charts.
Mm.
And I say this with such heart and such compassion and such kindness. So I just want to say, let's all wake the fuck up,
Mm.
whatever that means.
And I heard you say earlier, it's not about fighting. It's not about getting angry. It's what is it about then, if it's not that for you?
It's
Wake the
about
fuck
being
up to
who we really are and what
okay.
has been happening here.
Okay. Hmm.
And I want to leave that as open and as broad. I could write an entire thesis on examples that
Mhm.
I've seen, but I would much rather have you go into your internal systems
Mhm.
and awaken your ability to be more aware what is not in coherence, what is
Hmm.
not making sense. Take a few breaths here, everybody, can we? Let's do it because this is all about empowerment, which is the goal,
Hmm.
and systemic real change, new eras, new possibilities.
I'll do mine in a second, but I would just encourage anyone that has specific questions and wants to almost like ask for clarity about, well, are you meaning this or are you meaning that? Just ask us in the comments because I think that Janet and I both have such a respect for the different scenarios of where individuals in the audience might be coming from that we want to make sure we're honoring of different perspective, different beliefs, different political perspectives, etc. And sometimes with that, we might come across as too vanilla and not edgy enough because we're trying to be respectful of the sovereignty of everyone, no matter what camp or group or ideology they come from. So I just wanted to. So for those that are wanting a little bit more refinement, just think about what is your question, or what might you be frustrated by, and what are they trying to say? Just literally ask us and be as clear as you want to be, and then we can get there. Go ahead, Janet.
So this is every institution. Let me just be clear. This is governments, these are corporations, this is your neighborhood PTA, these are your schools. Just be aware wherever you feel it, because all of these are ripe for providing information or following a certain path that might not be true and might have never been true. But people believe that it was true because somebody told them it was true, and it could be complete
Yeah.
horseshit.
Yes. Yes. We're coming out of an era, I mean, I'll just name it COVID, where there remain a lot of storylines that were offered to us that are not true and were never true. I remember hearing that the kiddos that were at certain stages of development were going to be, I mean, it almost like they made it like they're going to be totally screwed. They'll never be able to communicate. They needed to see somebody's mouth move in order to be able to communicate and learn language and all those things. And I didn't believe that. I believed in the transcendence of those, into those humans, those younger humans, and all of us as a species, that will get through this. And it may not be in the same trajectory as before, but we'll figure it out. So I haven't heard the data. I haven't been looking for the data to validate that doom. This is going to be tragic, And I'm like, I think it's okay. I think we'll be okay. But when I communicate with individuals at that age group that were in the early language development skills during the mask era that some experienced, I haven't witnessed, oh gosh, I can't even communicate. It must be those masks. I mean, but I wasn't looking for validation of that either. Um, Thank you for clarifying, by the way, because I think that is helpful. You're not a certain ideology trying to, sugarcoat something or dance around an issue. You're really wanting it to be as universal as possible of wake the F up. Everyone, everywhere, wherever you are, whatever you're experiencing, do what you can and be more open to another version of consciousness and of awareness that might surprise you and you might find to be very empowering. Um, let's see. I think my big takeaway, or my big um, component, is I believe in the individual. I believe in you. I believe in your transcendence. I believe in your literally like supernaturalness, even if you don't. To me, that's not conditioned on where you get your information, or how informed or uninformed you are. To me, the magic, literally, and the glory of humanity resides within the individual. Um, so I'm always looking to that. I don't need to know like who your hero is in terms of news sources, or who you believe everything, this person, I believe everything they say. I don't need to know that. In a way, I don't want to know that, because it might bias me if it's somebody I disagree with. But I'm looking at the individual going, I know you're amazing, and I would love to experience your amazingness. So to me, information is almost completely independent of that relationship, that connection I'm kind of striving for and more than open to. And, wanting to kind of do the more of this with the individual. Show me what you are. Show me the source energy that we all are, and your version of that, because that's where I feel the most potential is, the most enjoyment is, the most empowerment is. It doesn't matter that we agree. It doesn't matter, how well read you are. Some of the most well read individuals I know act the most ignorantly.
Yeah, I agree with that. So in terms of information, what do you consume and what do you internalize? You know, And is it interfering with you as the God that you are, right? The best
Mm.
way to do it is, do I allow it to add to and inspire me?
Mm.
And perhaps
Ah,
there are processes that I can learn from you in terms of mechanistic ways that it might not even be true, but the fact that I considered it from this perspective might open up something for me. Because I'm a firm believer, and I will, you know, stand up to anybody. No, everybody is so unique that
mm.
nobody can do what you do. And so if you happen to be the one that disagrees with everybody, that's important.
Yes.
And I have seen large hundreds of people gathered where people have voted on something. This is organizations I've been involved in. And one person disagrees and they get up and share why they disagree. And then people revote and they've changed their vote.
Mhm. It's
As we're
tough out
wrapping up
there.
here. Yeah, it is. It's really tough out there. As we are
Oh my
wrapping up
gosh.
here, Jill, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
I'm glad we did this topic. It's a tough one because it's a really big one, but I hope that everyone heard something that kind of let them go, "Oh, this might apply to me." And maybe re-listen to it or rewatch it and just go back to that part and really give yourself some time and space to consider what that might be, because we are more than what we know. We are more than what we don't know. And there's so much expansiveness and growth and potential and strength and originality, as you were saying, Janet, in every single one of us. And I feel like both of us are just champions and don't let anything get in the way, even if it's something that we've been, you know, programmed to think, oh, you need to be informed. If that information's getting in the way of you being the absolute, and I mean this in a good way, freak of nature that you are as the source energy you are, I would rather have you not be so called informed.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thanks, Jill, for going here. I agree. That's we
Thank
covered a
you.
lot of territory. People, if you've had reactions to it, I agree. Be with yourself and see what that is for you.
And share
And
it. We love
yeah,
to read your comments. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love it when you take words right out of my mouth. Whoop, you just grab those. I loved it. Sometimes, yeah, it's good. Hey, thanks, everybody. Please share anybody that you think might benefit from this, be inspired by it, or even react to it. Please share. It could be helpful. And yeah, so thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and thank you, Jill, for having this amazing conversation today.
Thank you, Janet. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
All right, bye.